Also developing tonight, an atheist group is claiming a, quote, major victory in its effort to get the IRS to investigate churches for alleged political speech. This is part of that secret settlement we first told you about last week. Right now, it's unclear how many of these churches will be investigated or even punished. And another big question tonight, is it all legal? Judge Andrew Napolitano is our Fox News senior judicial analyst. He joins us now to break it down. All right, Judge, this group, this atheist group, sued the IRS saying you're not cracking down on churches like you should. The case is going away because they reached a secret settlement.
But before they reached a secret settlement, a mainline conservative Christian church entered the picture and said, sue us, because we want the court to decide once and for all if our ministers or priests, I'm not sure what they call themselves in this particular church, can talk about public policy from the pulpit. So the atheist groups basically want the churches not only to refrain from endorsing candidates, but from discussing public policy from the pulpit. That is absolutely un-American, Shannon. The country was founded when ministers and priests and rabbis preached secession. The country was advanced forward when they preached abolition from slavery. They have every right to encourage their parishioners and worshipers and congregants to go in the political direction that they suggest they go in, and the IRS shouldn't have anything to do with monitoring them.
Now, I talked to one of the guys from the Freedom From Religion Foundation about this. He said, we're just trying to get the IRS to do its job. It needs to be monitoring these churches. It wasn't doing it. So they reached this deal, and now they've dismissed the case, but without prejudice, meaning they can bring it back. And they said, we're going to watch the IRS.
Correct. If
they don't do a good job, we're going to reinstitute this lawsuit. Now, their motion to dismiss, and part of this, they say that we've received information from DOJ counsel further indicating that the IRS now has procedures in place and that they're going to act on these church investigations.
So the IRS is going to send agents, federal agents, to sit in churches and listen to what priests and ministers say and decide how close to a political line they have come. Have they ever heard about the First Amendment? Congress shall make no law abridging the freedom of speech. Now, I know the origin of this. The churches are tax exempt. In return for the tax exemption, they supposedly give up their right to get involved in politics. But it's absolutely un-American, and that law is wrong. And the IRS has no business going to churches and taking down every word that ministers and priests say and then punishing them if they don't like what was said. That's shades of the other side of the pond and Stalin and East Germany. That's not America.
Yeah, that is a little bit frightening. Now, what's interesting to me is that a number of these churches and pastors are part of a formal event where they preach, and they have a date. I think this year is October 5th, Pulpit Freedom Sunday, where they are daring the IRS. A lot of them are taping their sermons, sending them to the IRS and say, come get me, because they want to challenge this in court. They believe they'd win.
Correct. We know why they're doing that, because they want this case to go forward, because they believe, after Hobby Lobby, that if this gets to the Supreme Court, it will by a 5-4 majority, the same majority as in Hobby Lobby, if it's the same court by the time the case gets there, invalidate this 1954 statute introduced by then Senator LBJ, which says that the IRS, in return for the tax-exempt status, can clamp down on political speech. The statute was wrong then. It was wrong today. It was unconstitutional then. It's unconstitutional today. I would welcome this challenge.
But what we've seen in so many of these cases is that the IRS doesn't take the bait. Is it that they also know if this gets into a federal court, if it gets to the Supreme Court, we're going to lose. So we're not going to go after anybody.
The Supreme Court has never ruled on this. And as much as the conservative Christian groups want it to get there, the IRS is afraid what will happen when it does get there. I hope it gets there, and I'm willing to bet that the First Amendment will prevail.
In the meantime, this group has had a lot of sway. I mean, by taking the IRS to court, they've gotten this now assurance. They've gotten this detail. There's a letter here that talks about we're looking at some 99 different churches. A lot of folks involved in this lawsuit say we haven't heard anything about it. We don't know if it's any of the churches we represent. Do these churches know they're being investigated? How does this work?
Well, I don't know how it's going to work, and I read the documents, and they don't name the churches where the IRS is going to go. And candidly, from the IRS's point of view, it's part of their gig that they're not going to say where they're going to show up. They want every priest and every minister, and this also applies to rabbis and imams and other religious leaders as well, to fear that the IRS might be out there in the congregation and might report them for their words. What is more un-American than that?
Judge, always good to have your voice of reason and legal expertise.
Good to be with you. It's a pleasure to see you in New York this week, Shannon.
Thank you. All right.